Hey citizens, welcome to the Summer of Self-Love.
For many women, this season has often been met with trepidation, and our inbox has been overflowing with heartfelt messages from women seeking guidance on how to cultivate confidence and self-assurance this summer.
In response, we've gathered our dearest friends and top experts to support you on this journey. Together, we'll explore ways to change the way that we look at ourselves, our body image, and allow you to lead your best life with unwavering self-love and confidence.
This summer, let's celebrate ourselves and the beauty of our unique bodies.
Welcome to the Summer of Self-Love.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Model Citizen Podcast. We have an absolutely iconic guest today, the one, the only Miss MJ Day.
Yay!
Welcome to
That
the
was some
podcast.
intro.
Guys.
Thank you.
Here's the thing. I'm not kidding you. I'm not trying to gas you up. Okay, for those of you guys who don't know, MJ is the editor-in-chief of Sports Illustrated Swimsuit.
Mhm.
She is responsible for my career, which we will get into. But we've had so many messages when we ask people who they want on the podcast. We can't even tell you how many people want you on the podcast.
Yeah.
And it's not just girls who are like, oh, I want to hear what she wants from, like, I'm a young girl, I would love to do swimsuit. It's women of all ages. Seriously. It is so
They
cool
want to
to
know
see.
about you and like your leadership, all of that. Like, it's
Yes.
just
Aw,
like your impact
Yeah.
thanks, guys.
is pretty fucking big.
It's expansive.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. It really is.
First, we kind of wanted to start out like, because Kayla and I were talking last night. We were like, we know MJ Day, the editor in chief. We know you as like mom, right? Not mom in the fact of like you're a mom, but like your mom on set. Like you're like the
Yeah.
boss. You are the
Yeah.
big dog, right?
Yeah.
But we want to know like where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? Did you fall
Mhm.
into all of this? Like, tell us a little bit about MJ, the rise of MJ.
The rise
Yes.
of
We want like the
MJ.
origin story.
Yeah.
Okay.
basically.
No one ever asked me that, so thanks for asking that. It's not that exciting, really. I grew up in southern New Jersey. I was a
Mhm.
beach girl, Ocean
love it.
County, New Jersey.
I love it.
Actually, the epicenter of where Hurricane Sandy hit is where I grew up,
Really?
which is why I did that photo shoot in
That's right.
Seaside and Cape May and Wildwood.
Really? I
Yeah.
didn't realize that. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh.
So that's my hometown, and a lot of my friends lost their homes and stuff like that, and have since rebuilt, and it was great in that respect. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I grew up down there. So I've always been a beach girl,
Mhm.
and it's not very exciting. I just like had a very lovely, normal childhood. I had
Yeah.
two kind of incredible parents.
What did they
working.
do?
My mom was a school nurse.
Okay.
And she's passed away, but she's a very special person to me, and she's been sort of like my guiding light through everything because she was a doer.
Yeah.
She kind of like uh, I come from like a long line of women who are doers. My grandmother went to college in 1919, which
Wow.
was she graduated from Temple, which is huge for back then women didn't go to college. And
Absolutely.
my mom was, she grew up in a time where women were kind of designated to do certain things, and
Yeah.
I remember her telling me she always wanted to be a doctor, but she was told she could only be a nurse,
Right, of
and
course.
so
Interesting. Yeah.
she went on to be the best nurse ever. She
Right.
was a great, she was a school nurse, but she was the only school nurse to ever win the New Jersey Governor's Award for Teachers because she was so incredible.
That's a huge
Oh
thing.
my
Yeah.
gosh, I
That's a
love
huge
that.
Yeah, she's really it was like, one of like not these major things, but kind of like significant things,
Very
Huge.
significant,
But
though.
she was a very kind person, everyone's favorite person. Like I think I try and emulate like how she walked the earth, which
I
was
can
just she led with
imagine.
kindness, and that
Yeah.
was really
I
special.
can imagine how she would be, and I know how highly you think of your mom, and just I've seen pictures of her. She had passed not long after we had shot in Costa Rica. Like I can just imagine how she was just
Yeah.
by you.
You would have loved her.
I'm sure.
You would have
I'm
loved her, and she would have loved you. Oh my God. You would have been her favorite by far. Like,
I love it. And what did your dad do?
my dad was career Navy. So,
Navy.
See, I didn't
yeah.
know any of
Mhm.
this. Like,
He was
we think it's so important. We're obviously like very tight knit family, and we always say like that's what makes a person, right? Like that's like your bones.
Yeah, your
of,
family history is
Agreed.
you know.
so where you're from, for better or for worse, is like so much of what creates the person you are.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because both of our mother-in-laws are nurses.
Mhm.
Ah, no way.
My
Yeah.
father-in-law was in the Navy as well.
No way.
Yeah.
And there is something so special about those types of people and the heart you have to have
Yeah.
Yeah.
to do those jobs.
Selfless.
Selfless.
Yeah,
They are the
right.
most selfless people. And I'm just like
Yeah.
in awe all the time.
And can also take so much.
yeah.
Well, wait, and I have to, I'm going to
Yes.
blow your mind a little bit now because it's not a big deal now, but my dad was a stay-at-home dad. So he retired right before I was born. And my mom, very interesting, isn't that? How
love
that has
that.
translated into what we personally represent and stand for.
Completely.
you
See,
know? Yeah.
that is a part of your story. Like you saw that, and
Yeah.
that wasn't the norm.
No,
Yeah.
like
It's
gender
still
rules
not the
didn't
norm.
really exist in my life,
Right.
like at
Yes.
all. My
It's
mom,
almost like breaking the mold was something that you were just used to seeing.
I don't know anything different.
Right, you
You know,
won't
my
know.
dad braided my hair and, picked me up from school. And, my
I
mom worked
love
and she,
that.
it was not that she was absent in any way, but,
She was kind of the breadwinner.
well, she was.
Yeah.
And then my dad performed, the household kind of maintenance duties and everything like that. But it wasn't like, I mean, military men, like it
Yeah.
wasn't like there was no emasculating part of this.
Yeah.
Like it was just a very normal,
He like wanted to
accepted.
do it. He did it with
Yeah.
love. He did it with
Yeah, and it worked and it was great. And it's definitely helped shape my
I think that's such a huge
Viewpoint.
catalyst to
Yeah.
how you were raised and your thought process. And did you go to school? Did you go to college?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay, where did you
Yeah.
go to college?
I graduated from Mary Washington. It's this like little school in
Okay.
Virginia,
What did you
Fredericksburg,
study?
Virginia. I was a political science major
Okay.
with a minor in creative writing. So yeah,
Okay.
but it was like my college experience was wonderful. I actually credit that a lot with like what I love now about traveling and exploration and stuff like that, because there's a component of that to the political science
Yeah.
nature and aspect of like my degree. But I went to school thinking I was going to go to law school, and
course.
then I got into it and I was like, this is not at all what I want to do.
Right.
And you couldn't have paid me to go to law school. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It just was not right for me.
Yeah,
Right.
it takes a
So-
toll. And if you're not like obsessed with the law in that way,
Yeah.
Didn't
being
Dad
a
only
lawyer-
last like one semester?
Yeah,
and he,
Dad lasted one semester.
he like thought so too, and then he was like, "Yeah, I think I'll be
Really?
an actor."
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's a
He's
creative.
a creative. Yeah,
He's a
there's
creative,
Exactly.
yeah.
And
it
that's
kills
what
that
I
creative, yeah,
it does.
It
and
just, yeah.
it's true, and that's what I figured out about myself, and that's that creative writing,
Yeah.
minor, I was like 3 points away or 3 credits away from a double major. Actually, I love that.
Mm.
And I realized like I needed to go in that direction and vein, and I had always been a really creative person. I didn't what I was missing, I guess, in my adolescence was sort of that guidance, I guess,
course.
of like finding what like makes you
Right.
happy. I
Yeah.
think maybe being from like a working class
Yeah, I
I
family
was gonna
too.
say, was there like a practicality that was really brought to the forefront of importance, where it was
Well,
like you have to do something that will make you money, and
Yeah.
make sure you're stable, get that
It's
For
that
sure.
stability, right?
for
Like,
sure.
because
And
creativity is like, I always feel for parents who have creative kids, because we're creative, and I kind of sometimes feel for that, because it's like you want them to be so creative and have all that, but you just know the world that we're in is sometimes a little bit more difficult for people of a creative mind.
completely,
Right? Like-
completely. Right. It's like, making a living can be challenging. When you're waiting around, waiting for people to see your brilliance.
Exactly.
Seriously, though, you
It's
literally are like,
true. anytime
Like,
now.
are you guys not
like-
seeing this?
Yeah.
Hello?
Right.
What was your first job out of college?
My first job out of college was I worked for Real Sim. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Start over. My first job out of college was for InStyle.
Really?
Yes. So I was a
Cool.
marketing intern for InStyle magazine. It had just spun off from People. Fun fact, it had been part of People magazine and it had
Wow.
just spun off from People, and it was in the late 90s and the print business was booming. It was
Yeah.
like the last like gasp of the golden years of print. And it was great. I mean, I again, I was like, I needed to do something creative. And so every job I applied for was either with a advertising agency or with a publication. And
it was here, right? In the city, in
yeah,
Manhattan.
yeah, Time Inc.
And
What
I was,
what a time though
which is,
to be doing like publication
was.
during like the 90s. That was
oh
just the
my
It was
height.
so major, you
Like
guys.
it's
Fun.
giving like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, like Andy,
Yes.
like but just it's so
It
that
was
energy.
everything you want to believe that it was.
Yes.
It was like jets and like
Ugh.
gifts and parties and
Ugh.
glamour. And like, I mean, you were riding so high. And like, even I was like a little peon
Yeah.
intern.
But still.
I remember the first party I ever went to, I met Beck and we were like dancing in like a
Oh
group.
my
And I was
God.
like,
Must
I'm
have been-
dancing next to
oh,
Beck. Like what?
yeah.
You know, I mean, it was crazy. It
You
was
just like
is,
hooked from then on.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yes.
You're like, oh, this is
Right.
where I'm supposed to be. Like
Yeah.
law school? No, thank
no,
you.
no, no,
Yeah.
no, no. Bye.
Like, I'm
When
Somebody
you
else.
get a taste of that, that's like, yeah, I think I feel comfortable here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't realize InStyle and
Mhm.
People and everything was all part of Time Inc. So did you just bounce from, because in 1999 is when you started with Sports Illustrated, is that right?
98. No, 98.
98. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Ugh.
was that shortly after? Like, how did you go from InStyle
To Sports Illustrated.
to Sports Illustrated?
Yeah.
But you were not swimsuit yet.
No, I went straight to
You
swimsuit.
went straight to swimsuit.
Mhm.
And where did you start there?
I was there were two assistants. It was a very small team
Yeah.
at that point. It was Elaine Farley, who was the editor and chief of Swimsuit at the time, and it was Jenny Kaplan, who was a year older than me and had been doing the job for probably like maybe a year, a little less than a year. And then Elaine got approved to have a second assistant because you needed somebody back at the office while Elaine and whatever
Right.
assistant was out on the shoot.
Okay.
And so she got approved for a second assistant, and that became me. And so there were just two of us. It was Elaine, the editor in chief, and then Jenny Kaplan and I, and we were the assistants. We were just assistants. I always say I was the assistant to the assistant because Jenny was my queen, and I looked up to her so
Right.
much. I was like, show me the way. You know,
Yeah.
she was this I mean, she's still a very good friend of mine. It's actually her birthday today.
Oh my God, happy birthday,
Yeah,
Jenny.
happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday, Jenny.
But she's like fabulous, and you know, she knew all the ins and outs of fashion. She was like
Yeah.
really dialed into it, and I was very, very green. I was like, I
Right.
can remember like rolling up in my, you know, my skirt suit to the interview, and it was
Right.
like, you know, from the Limited Express.
Yeah,
and
you're like,
I
put
was
on a
like,
jean and a white tee.
Not
Yeah.
even.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like literally a blazer and a
Of
skirt
course,
and
you're
like
this is what I think.
sensible
yeah,
heels,
right.
and that's
Like,
how I
this is what I'm
showed up.
supposed to
You
wear,
know,
right? Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
like knew nothing of the world. I mean, I worked at InStyle. Obviously, I
Yeah.
saw the fabulous people there,
Yeah.
but I was a marketing intern.
Right,
right.
You know, and so it was just a whole different ballgame. So it was just the three of us.
Wow. And
Mhm.
what was your very first shoot you went on?
My very first shoot was at Necker Island,
Okay.
and the photographer was Andrew McPherson.
Ellen
And-
Pearson's.
oh, no.
No?
Nope, just
No, like, relation?
No relation. Fabulous British guy, and then it was Heidi Klum was the model.
Was your first?
Yeah,
I would
It's like-
literally be like, I went from InStyle to like on a shoot with Heidi Klum.
Yeah,
What's
it was
going on?
wild. It was so. I mean, it's so funny. I've told her this story before. So if Heidi, you hear this, like you'll
Yes.
laugh. But I can remember I was walking onto set. I don't remember what I was bringing. I was bringing something. I was always bringing something.
Yeah, of
Coffee
course,
or,
of
you know,
course.
like
Yeah.
something. And Heidi was sitting in this like director's chair, this tall director's chair. It was like in between shots. She was like maybe getting touched up. And I remember she was like smoking a cigarette and she was topless. And it was so casual. All of
Yeah.
it was so casual. And I was this like little girl from New Jersey. And I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, what is going on here? Like Heidi Klum is topless and she's talking to me. Where do I look? She's
Right.
like fabulous boobs.
course.
And I was like, she's the best looking boobs I've ever
Yeah.
seen in my life. I'm
You're
like,
like,
okay,
here's your
fine, look at
latte,
your
Miss
boobs.
Klum.
And
I'm
literally-
so sorry.
I mean, it was crazy. I was like, I'm gonna just look at your boobs
I look
because
at
they're
them too.
magical. Like, you
Yeah.
know?
And you have to also have that story, right? That
Yeah.
now you're telling so many years later, Like, I'm sorry, I literally have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be disrespectful not to.
It would be. They were
honestly.
meant to be,
Yes.
like celebrated. And
Yes.
truly, she had the best. I mean,
I
That's
love
so
that. She's still
European
she
of
didn't want me
her.
to see him. She would have had a shirt on, right?
Exactly. I love that for her. I absolutely love that for her. I also love that you like started as an assistant to the assistant and now you're the editor in chief. And this is why I think so many people have wanted you on, because it's like
Mhm.
not everyone wants to be a swimsuit model. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, people have these aspirations to also be someone like you who is in this high position. And Kayla and I were talking last night. We're like, MJ, you need your own thing, because you as a person, it's like how you see Anna Wintour. You're like, Anna Wintour has her own thing. You are going to have your own thing that is just like you as a human. And that's why we really wanted to like crack into the rise of you and like how you got here and your mindset. And so, okay, so you're the assistant to the assistant,
Mhm.
and then you climb up to, you just continue to
then-
climb up all the way.
it's interesting because it was like it's a funny little, oh God, I keep hitting this thing. Sorry guys. It's a funny little, it's not even funny. It's sort of like, I always joke, I'm like survivor swimsuit,
Yes.
outlast, out
Literally.
survive. Like that's
Yeah.
how I feel a little bit, because I've been around for so long. But it was a series of things. Like, it was a very different world back then,
Yeah.
and swimsuit was not appreciated and
Yeah.
valued the same way that it is now.
Yeah.
And neither were we, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And I've worked for 2 of the 4 editor-in-chiefs of Sports Illustrated Swimsuit. I didn't have a chance to work for Julie Campbell, the founder, but I knew her
Yeah.
very well, and she's very dear to me. And Elaine Farley and Diane Smith, her successor, and then obviously me.
Yeah.
But it was hard, working in Time Inc., especially at Sports Illustrated. It was a boys' club,
Right.
For sure.
and so what we did at the time, wasn't super valued in that way.
Yeah.
It was a cash cow, which they loved, but the women that worked there were oftentimes dismissed as
Yeah.
either, we just were with them, we weren't of them.
Yeah.
If
of
that
course.
makes
Yeah,
sense,
completely.
And that doesn't, not all the people that worked at Sports Illustrated felt that way, but there were
Of course.
many
Yeah.
Right.
who really looked down their nose at us.
Yeah.
And I watched how they, would treat Elaine and Diane and, even us in
Yeah.
some respects. And the way we kind of rose up was not necessarily a beautiful way. It was Elaine left. She went and she left and she worked at Cosmo, I think. She took a job shortly after she hired me, maybe 6 months later, and Swimsuit was left without an editor. So it was just the two of us, Jenny and myself, and with this issue to put out and
Wow.
shoot. And the men at Sports Illustrated did not know what to do
course.
Right.
with this. They
Sure.
were like,
Mhm.
what do we do? So,
Yeah.
and to be quite honest, at that point, 23-year-old me and 24-year-old Jenny, we were like, what do we do?
Right, everyone's like, we also don't know.
Anyone?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had gone on maybe 2 shoots at that point,
Right.
and Jenny had gone on maybe 6
Right.
total. So they were
Wow.
kind of like, okay, well, you need to do this. So we're going to bring somebody in as a stylist,
Yeah.
and you guys are going to have to make it happen,
Right.
essentially. And we did, which was crazy when you think about it.
So you had no direction, like specific direction.
We knew where we were shooting. We knew the whole issue was going to be shot on Necker Island.
Okay.
And we had most of the models booked. It was far less models than we shoot now.
Yeah.
It was like maybe 12 models total.
I know you look back. It's funny because I have one of Christy Brinkley's old ones, and you look back and there's, so much. There's so many articles.
Yeah.
And there's so.
Well, it was an insert. It wasn't a standalone.
Yeah. It was
Mhm.
like.
It was only
crazy.
part of like the weekly sports magazine.
Right.
Right. That's right.
And so it wasn't standalone until 89, I think, 89. But yeah, so it was interesting. So they kind of had to quickly promote us
Yeah.
because they couldn't have 2 assistants like doing the stuff that we were
Right.
doing.
People
So
be like, this isn't for real.
right.
Yeah.
So they were like, okay, you're assistant editors. And so we were like, oh, okay, we're assistant editors. What does that mean? But like, okay, here we go. We'll
Yeah.
do this issue. And so
Right.
that's when Diane Smith came on, initially as like a stylist, and oversaw that part of it. And they really liked Diane. And then she stayed on, and she took the job and, became third editor-in-chief of the issue.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that whole year, Diane was there. We supported her and assisted her. And
Yeah.
she obviously had a ton of experience, you know what I mean? So she helped guide it. But it was a very weird time because it was like everything was very cobbled together,
Right.
We came over like $100,000 over budget. Oh my God. Like I didn't even know how to do a budget. Like
right.
what's a
23, 24.
Right. It was literally like the key, here are the keys to the castle. Like you figure it out.
It really was like trial by fire.
It was. It was. It's wild when you think of it.
Yeah.
But yes, it was 100%. A lot of the stuff was already in place. I mean, obviously Time Inc. was a huge company and there were a lot of, supports in place, but it was so different back then. I can't even, we need a whole other episode to talk about that. But, I just remember when it was time to balance the budget at the end of the year, they were like,
you're like,
but it was the 90s. So $100,000 was no big deal. I remember they were like, the editor-in-chief I can remember of Sports Illustrated, who oversaw the swimsuit issue at that time too, by the way, the editor-in-chief of Sports Illustrated,
oh my God.
the male editor-in-chief of Sports Illustrated oversaw the swimsuit issue. I remember him calling me into the office and I thought I was going to get in so much trouble because we were so over budget.
Yeah.
And he was like, great job this year. You guys really stepped up. Here's a $10,000 bonus. And I was like, whoa.
Love it. But
you're like, I can get used to this.
Yeah, right. But it was the 90s. Very different.
I know.
Yeah.
When did you become editor-in-chief?
I don't remember the year. Is that
no
so bad?
Fine. But like, how old were you?
I was in my 30s. I think I was my early 30s.
Can you imagine being editor-in-chief of
no, mid 30s.
But still, it's like I think of editor-in-chief and I'm like, that's someone in there that's 75 because that it takes so long to get there. It's like that in my
in swimsuit years, I had been there a long time. Don't forget.
True.
So I
Which
definitely
amazing.
It's crazy.
I would love to know, you must have had to trust your gut and your instinct enough to follow through with all of this. Like, you're like, oh, we have to do this. We have to do this. It's like very unplanned. You don't know where it's going to go. Did you trust your instinct? Is that something that you feel like really brought you to being successful in this like very chaotic time?
Yes, 100%. I can say that with such certainty. Like there are so many things people ask me and I'm like, well, I was lucky, or well, I was, I was surrounded by the right people. All of which is true, all of success takes a little bit of luck, right?
Yeah.
The village that you surround yourself with. I keep hitting this thing. Sorry.
Yeah. No,
and then, but this I feel very, very certain of. Like, I just have never second thought any of those kind of big moves. No, never. And my thought is that I lead with my heart. I believe so much in what we do and what we stand for and the conversations that we hold, that if it's wrong and people don't like it and it means I'm out, then fine. That's okay, because I'm not regretting anything I've done
you're
ever.
saying it with your chest.
100%.
You're like standing on business and you're saying, I believe in this 100%, no matter how it goes.
Yeah.
If it goes down, I know I went down being so true to myself,
100%.
and true to my heart, and like listening to my own, inner person. Like, and that I think is something, especially women, we have such a hard time doing.
Yeah.
Is listening to that like inner voice that's like, do this, and like you're right. You're correct in these feelings.
And also saying like, I'm willing to lose it all if it means that I was on the right side of history. And I was, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
I think that's where true change happens. And so your very first cover year as editor-in-chief was with Kate Upton on the cover. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember that cover like it was yesterday. And so we were like,
all the guys we were dating
were like, that was literally
we're like,
it.
We like you guys, but oh my God, we're on Tumblr reposting this photo. And Hunter and I were just like,
you're like, oh great.
We're like, of course, she looks literally incredible. And she was like the curviest one. I mean, she like was everything.
I was like, oh wow, there's a woman on a magazine with larger boobs. I was like, I had never seen that before.
Isn't that crazy?
That's
Can you believe you even saying that right now? Like,
crazy.
wow.
And it wasn't even that. And I'm
No.
not saying this was in the 1500s.
No,
This was like a
right.
few years ago. Like
Literally.
literally, it's crazy.
Yeah.
What was the pushback on that? Because I know that there was some
Yeah. There
people
was,
who were like, I'm sure there was a lot of the opposite of people being like, yeah, we love this, obviously.
100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, the pushback was surprising, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
we didn't see it coming. When we cast Kate, we were just like, wow, she's wonderful, as you know,
Yes,
right? The
I love
personality
her,
is like a
yes.
20.
Yeah.
She had sort of that all-American vibe. You know, she was like, in my opinion, she was the quintessential
All-American
Sports
girl,
Illustrated swimsuit
Absolutely.
model.
Yeah.
Health, vitality, like youthfulness, like all of the things that we prioritized in
Yeah.
that moment
Yeah.
was Kate was the embodiment of. And so like I wasn't looking at the body. I mean, obviously, like she's got great body
Yeah.
too, but like that was like just part of it. It
Yeah.
wasn't, to me, I didn't cast her to cause
Right.
like an uproar. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I cast her because I thought, hey, she's great for this. And so when the negative feedback, blowback started coming in, we were like
Shocked.
like stunned, honestly. Like
Yeah.
for a minute, we were like, what?
I remember when
Like, are we
people
looking
said
at the
it-
same person?
I
Yeah.
remember when people were like a plus size model, and I
Yep.
which is
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
jarring to
Jarring.
say.
Yeah, because she just wasn't like a standard.
She had boobs.
She had boobs. Like,
yeah.
right. Like, it's crazy to me. And to be honest, like, she wasn't, I guess, technically a sample size.
Yeah.
But the deep, like, negative reaction that some people had to her
Yeah.
was wild.
Cuckoo.
And that's what started
I
the
was gonna
whole
say.
shift, because
Yeah.
it just pissed
Did
me
that
off
light
so
the
much.
fire under
Yes.
you to be
Mhm.
like, fuck all of you?
Fuck all of you.
guys?
Yes.
Like,
I'm like, are you fucking kidding? Like,
yeah.
this is what we're going to do to a
Yeah.
woman because she looks different.
Yeah.
Well, then we've got a
A
bigger
huge-
problem
Yes.
to deal with, and then we're gonna do something about it.
Right.
Because it just, no matter what you look like, when you think about that moment, it resonates with you, because it's just about feeling different and othered and being attacked for it. And
Yeah.
let's be honest, we're all different.
Yeah. How boring would our world be if we were all like, one size, or just all looked the same, all had
Right.
blonde hair, blue eyes, and freckles? If I would be like, oh my God, this is so boring. Like,
Yes.
I can't.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
And we know why that happens in fashion, right? And
Yeah.
maybe, it's because they only want to make one sample size.
Yeah.
That's right.
And that's it, because
Yeah.
it's expensive to make another sample size.
It's
And
finances, it's laziness.
it's what it is.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
what it is.
Yeah.
It takes more time to make more patterns. It takes more money, and they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're going to do one set of samples,
Right.
and that one type of body is going to fit that one type of samples. And that's why that's all we used to see,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but guess what? Lycra stretches.
Yeah, believe it or not, right?
Yeah.
We do like we always talk about how it's like you could be holding up a size 12 pants, which would fit one of us if it's a little stretchy, and then you hold up a size 22 and you're like, oh, these fit too. It's like people, the way that this world puts so much emphasis on a number, on the way that your clothing size is, on the way that your stomach does something, on the way that you move, is so diabolical and weird. It is so
It is,
weird.
yeah.
So weird.
And it's just, I just remember that cover so vividly. And then fast forward a couple years, you put Ashley on the cover, and she was the real true, like, first plus size, truly plus size woman on the cover. Even then, like, I'm like, she's still like, you know what I mean? It's like, she was just so stunning on that cover. I remember being like, oh my God, this is major.
Yes.
And I think in that moment, that cover was the one where I was like, oh, this is something that I could possibly be a part of one day, like possibly, right? And that just goes like to show the importance of representation. I would have never had that thought in a million years. I would literally tell my agents, and I was about a size, like, at the time, I mean, it was like a size 14, and they'd be like, okay, yeah, Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Sure. I mean, right?
Everyone has that dream. So
Everyone
yeah,
has that dream, of course.
course,
But
yeah.
like,
Fast
sure.
forward, send them this
Yeah.
shit.
Literally. I think you need to send them all.
Would you like a
an
box?
issue. Yeah. Would you like a box?
Signed.
Signed. Christmas card is that
Right.
cover.
It's so true. Like
Yeah.
it's
I
and now
know.
that I have a daughter, I think of that. I'm like, I hope that like this world, when she's looking at magazines, when she's watching TV, when she's driving on the road and seeing billboards, that she sees not only herself represented, she sees her friends represented. She
Yep.
sees the beautiful rainbow of people represented. And it's not just this one like cookie cutter way, right?
Because that's not reality.
It's not
not
reality.
It's not reality.
No.
And I have to tell you, like the real like light bulb moment happened when we were in Israel shooting. Like that's one of the beauty of this job too. It's like experiencing other cultures and other people from every corner of the world. And we were in Israel and we had a great crew. And I forget why we started talking about this, but somebody said we were talking about like beauty ideals and like, oh, who do you think is the most beautiful person?
Yeah.
Like, and a guy worked with us, his name was Randall Grant. He was our behind the scenes photographer and he also did stuff with the fledgling website way back when. And he was this like really incredible looking human being. He was like big and burly and he was I can't remember if his mom, both parents were African American or mom. He was like mixed.
Yeah.
He had blue gray eyes. He had this giant light colored afro. He was like extraordinarily beautiful. Like he was just this really like, but non-traditional, you know what I mean?
Uniquely beautiful.
Uniquely beautiful. Yeah. And somebody on the crew was like, Randall's the most beautiful person. And then like everybody on the crew was like, you're the most no, I think you're the most beautiful person. It
Right.
wasn't like to fluff anybody up either. It was like what their ideal of beauty was.
Yes.
And it was funny because like Bar Raffaele was on that shoot and it wasn't, people all just weren't like Bar, you know,
Right.
she
Of course,
wasn't there
right.
and she wasn't even there to like, like people weren't necessarily naming models. Some of them were.
Right.
Sure.
But
It's
for
like,
some of
no,
them,
you.
right.
You know?
Right. And I was like, you know what? Like, this is real. This is really what it is. And then, like, I thought back to like every time I went to a different place, whether it was Africa or Asia or Australia, like there was a different ideal of what beauty was. And that is just the reality of the world. And it's not defined by your geographic location. It's defined by individual. Like you can take it from like continent down to country, down to street, down to person within the family. And everybody's going to have a different vibe that they're into. And it's like, why are we not addressing this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Global,
representing
like, yeah,
this,
like
showing this because we all want to see the people that we think are attractive or who we find beautiful or who we find, you know, inspire us or whatever it is.
Right. And there's beauty.
We want to see.
Exactly. And it's not just by the physical appearance and then it like, and then you really start to unpack it, right?
Yeah.
It's by the heart. It's by what they've achieved. It's by what they've overcome. It's what they represent. It's like beauty then becomes a completely different entity than what is traditionally assigned to
Right.
it.
I mean, it's so true because you look at someone, right, who's like maybe not necessarily a like striking person, but they have a beautiful heart. They have a beautiful story. What they stand for is beautiful. And all of a sudden you're like, that's the most beautiful person I've ever seen in my entire life.
And then what is beauty, right? Like, what is it?
And
who good eyebrows?
Right.
Who like, or good soul.
It?
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Like I'm moved by so much. I'm moved by like, we all are, right? We're moved by the visual, but we're also moved by the emotional and like how it speaks to you, you know, whether it's the feeling you get listening to the person speak or whether you're looking at them and you're seeing yourself represented in them. Like it's so many different things, you know? Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. This is why it's like also when you meet someone, there's like that unspoken idea of chemistry between people, and it doesn't always have to be like romantic. It's like when you have a chemistry with
it's
someone,
immediate. It's you feel that,
and a lot of times it's on a different plane. It's not only with your eyes. You're like feeling this connection.
That's how I felt with my husband. I literally, as soon as I walked in, I was like, I saw him. We said one word, and I was like,
He's also a fox. Let's be real.
I know.
I
Till
love
you went
it.
in and you're like, yuck, but I guess I mean,
We'll overlook that part, but he's a really nice guy too. I know.
But I was like, oh, that's my husband. Like, I was like, I fear that's my husband.
I fear that's
that is my husband.
I just met my husband.
Yeah. But like with friends, for instance, like when you sit down with someone, you
Mhm.
just meet them and you're like, oh man, we're gonna be really good
Yeah,
friends.
right.
Like, because there is that thing. It doesn't matter what they look like. There's always that saying that's like, oh, I would never say about my friend, she has the clearest skin. My friend
Right.
has the best butt.
Never.
Like I think back to my friend and I name all of her qualities and like not at one point am I even thinking about anything physical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my
It's
God,
so
she's so
true.
kind. She's so lovely with her family. She goes out of her way for people, supportive, whatever. And that just speaks to like how many facets of human beings and the fact that SI has done such an incredible job to like showcase so many different types. It's like the categories are endless.
It is. They're endless.
it's
That's the thing,
endless,
right?
yeah.
And it's like
Just when
everybody's
I
like,
think I've
when are you
seen it
going to
all.
do this? And when are you going to do that? And it's like, well, it's not about ticking a box, right?
Which I
Exactly.
really appreciate
Yeah.
because I think that there's so much out there and we're seeing a
Performative.
lot of it right
Mhm.
now. We actually had one of my dear friends on yesterday, Katie Storino. She
Oh,
created a brand, Mega Babe.
Mega Babe,
and
yeah.
she's just
That
such a
anti-chafe.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
I know.
we're gonna-
We're always
yeah,
like,
we're gonna send you a ton.
thank you, Katie.
And we were all saying how like she's very much in the same space as we are, and it's like so many people have been so performative in the way of we'll put the plus girl on there, we'll do the black girl, we'll do the gay guy, and we're good there.
Yep.
And then that's it. We
Yep.
did that for the year. We
Yeah.
met our quota, and it's like no
Mm-mm.
no.
You're not one and done.
You're not one and done. But you know what? We're seeing that though, and especially in the last year,
Yeah.
because
I've
we are
noticed
in
it.
our Ozempic era.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just be so for real. Like we are. We're in this era where we're seeing people take that step back because they're like, oh, it's easier to just go back to this. I guess if we just fly under the radar, it's not going to be a big deal. And we're seeing people do all that, which is
Yeah.
fine. Again, we always say like we have no problem with that at all. You do what you want to do. Your body, your choice, through and through, from top to bottom, through abortion to plastic surgery to whatever you want to take, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like we always say, like confidence it's not going to be a physical thing. I can promise you confidence is not going to be a physical thing. It's just not.
No, it's
Never
not.
is.
And working with even tons and dozens, hundreds of straight size models, like, I got to tell you, problems are problems.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
Like struggles are struggles. Like the body shape and size doesn't solve anything.
Yeah, I mean,
you know?
Christy Brinkley was on Good Morning America. I don't know if you saw that, where she was like, just now at 70 is the first time I'm feeling like truly like I just don't care.
Yep.
And she's Christy Brinkley.
Yeah, right. And I
If
can
Christy
vouch for
Brinkley can't
right.
even, you know what I mean?
correct. I can vouch for that. I mean, we all can vouch for that. We
Yes.
know plenty of straight size models. We know plenty of women that have the society's
yes.
ideal like figure, and it doesn't change anything. They can buy more clothes.
Yeah.
That's it.
literally
Like,
it.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It
Yeah.
doesn't change anything. It is such a farce. Like something that has been fed to us that like that changes your life. Your life is perfect. It does. It has nothing to do with it. Like it doesn't at all. It's
Yeah.
here. It's here.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, and you got to grow. It doesn't happen overnight. Like nobody, I don't think, is born with unrelenting confidence,
No.
right?
Right.
It's like
No.
work. You have to put
Or-
the work in.
Or you almost are, and you get it taken away. Like I look
Yeah,
at
you
my
get it
son
kicked
and my
out of you.
daughter, right?
Yeah,
Like, I
you
look
know what? That's a better point.
But
Yeah,
I look at my son and I'm like, he's potty training right now. And he's like, can I watch you poop? And he's just like, and I'm like, surely, like
Yeah.
whatever you want to do, I guess. And then he'll be like, can I see your butt? And I'm like, sure. And like, he doesn't,
Love it.
like he literally, like he was like looking at our pimples the other day, and, and he was never like, ew, what is that? He's like,
No.
oh, okay, is that a boo-boo? Oh no, it's not. Okay. He never says anything. He's just interested. But I
Yeah.
know that there's going to be a moment for him, for sure, probably soon, where something is going to be said somewhere that he's going to question something about himself.
Yeah.
And that's when it starts.
Yeah. Can you remember that moment for you? Because I can
You
remember that
can?
moment.
What was it?
I was in kindergarten and I was sitting on the bus And I remember I was looking at my legs on the bus
Mhm.
and my thighs, because I was never a tiny person
Yeah,
ever,
right.
ever,
Yeah.
you know? And I was looking at my thighs and the way that they like
Went.
spread out
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, of
wider
course. Yeah.
than all the other little girls
Yeah.
that were
Yes.
sitting on the bus.
Mhm.
And I had this like little, I don't even know, feel like a brownie uniform or something. I can almost remember it and I could see it. And I was like, I don't look like that. And I remember I took my book bag and I just put it on my lap and I never sat on the bus without the book bag on my lap after that because
Oh.
I was so conscious of my thighs being wider than all of the other little girls.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Because
from that moment on, it
Yeah.
was piled on.
it was.
Yes.
100%.
and
Yes.
and only
Very
in the
cognizant of that.
very and
Mhm.
in only in the last, I would say, honestly, 10 years did
Yeah.
we start to unlearn things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we were never given the opportunity before that to unlearn things.
Yeah.
Our parents never were, certainly not our grandparents.
Yeah.
Our mom always says, she's like, I'm now confident at 65 years old. She's 65. You know how I love to age mom. What is she, 65? I love to be like my mom at 68. She's like, please.
Yes.
She's like, I am now confident because I see you girls, being yourself. And I'm 65, but I didn't have that growing up.
100%.
I didn't have the opportunity to unlearn this stuff.
I'm
Yeah.
still unlearning it, you know?
Right.
I mean, I literally I get it from my environment. Like
Yes.
I'm still not wearing a two-piece on the
Yeah.
beach. I'm just
Yeah.
not.
Yeah,
like
and
I
that's real.
You know
That's
what I mean?
human.
Like it's
Yeah.
it's whatever, but like you know what I am doing? I'm walking around without a strong on for the
Yes.
first time in a long time.
Well,
you
and
know?
that's what it's about, is those
Like,
steps.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
but it's because I'm getting it back, and it's true. It's 100. I would be lying if I was sitting here
Yeah.
projecting that this is like me and I. There's all facets of my life. I'm just like, yeah,
Right.
whatever, but
Yeah.
I'm not.
I always think of my kid, like now that I'm a mom, I always think of my kids, how I look at them and I'm like, you're perfect. Your boogers are perfect.
Yeah.
Your insides are perfect. Your
Mhm.
everything. Like, would you ever look at your kids and be like, you, oh.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like exactly.
And I always think how devastating I would be
Right.
if they were like, I hate my arms. I hate my,
Right.
and I'm like, wait a minute, I made
You're like, I
you."
cooked that.
Yeah.
I cooked that
Right.
arm. How dare
Right.
you? Yeah.
Or how about how they look at you, right? Like, have your kids
Yes.
ever looked at you and thought you are anything less than perfection?
Perfection.
You know, it's
Perfection.
we were at the
true.
we were at the pool on Sunday,
Uh-huh.
and it's just so funny because kids are just running around and maybe you're feeling a type of way, but Hudson was just like, I just want to get in the pool. Like, I don't like, he's like, no one's looking at
Yeah,
any
he's like,
of
look at
that.
the
No.
water splash.
Yeah. And
Not
then
at
when
all.
we were talking about the pimples, he was looking at my pimples. All he did, he goes, is that a boo-boo? And I was like, oh, it's a pimple. And he went, oh, does it hurt? And I was like, a little bit. He went in the fridge and got an ice pack and brought it back to me. And he put it on my eye. I have a photo.
Oh my God.
He put it, because I had a little pimple up here. He put it up here and he was just holding it there. And he was
Yeah.
like, it'll feel
I
better.
know. I know. But like, that's our
Yes.
first inclination as
Yes.
humans.
Yeah.
Humans are, I believe we are inherently good,
Mhm.
but we learn different.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think that we have to really take that into account. And I think that we've really taken a step back, and it's really scary, especially as a plus size woman, a plus size
Yeah.
model. And I've even taken a step. I mean, when I had kids, like I took a step back from talking out and really being bold about it because I was exhausted.
Yeah.
But then as I was really, thinking about things, I mean, a week before I even got the cover, I was telling Mikhail, I'm like, what do I do next? Like, what do I do? Like, I really need the fire ignited again. I'm not kidding you. 1 week
One week.
before.
Wild.
I think we almost have I think we said like a joke. Like
On
we
the-
were
like
like,
an
oh, the
episode.
way Q1's going for,
Yeah, like, I'm gonna
it's not
be,
good,
Oh,
we're going to be
yeah.
getting a job at
Yeah.
Starbucks. Like, it was just like a funny joke.
Yeah.
But right.
that's-
That's just a show, right?
Yeah.
Where we can,
ebb and flow. And the thing is it's like
But I always told you, I was like, oh, you're not done, girl. I was like, I've always been like,
I needed that fire again. And I think
Yeah.
so many of us need that fire again. And it takes leaders to make that change. And that's why, again, that, I had a conversation with Oprah, which was like huge. And it was like her having that conversation was major because it takes the higher ups to then say, we're on board with this. And then everyone else goes, okay, well, if everyone else is jumping on board, I'm going to jump on board.
Yeah.
But it's scary. And so is it scary for you? Like I see all the time, oh, go woke, go broke. Sports Illustrated's gone woke. the, go broke. What do you do with that? How do you feel about that? I know it's like a heavy loaded question. You don't feel like you have to answer it because
No, I'm happy to answer it because I've lived it enough. You know what I mean? I mean,
yeah,
it definitely, well, first it pisses me off.
yeah,
It just enrages me because we are not going broke.
Yeah.
I feel like from our like the value of this brand, what it means to so many people
Yeah.
now versus what it meant to people then. It just is. It's not even the same thing. It's
No,
just
it's not even just a magazine. Now, what magazine does cover reveals?
right.
People are
People
waiting
wait
for this
for the
because they
cover reveal.
know it's
Yeah.
more than, it's not just
Right.
photos
It's
anymore.
not. It's not. The photos are part of it.
Yeah.
They're part of it. It's
Yeah.
it's the essence of like what this stands for and what the women associated with it
Yeah.
stand for and
Yes.
what kind of change making can be done because of the associations. I think that's what this is. And it's like, okay, go woke, go broke. Like, sure, somebody doesn't want to advertise and we don't want your money. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
like this brand is anything but emotionally bankrupt, like there's
Right.
so much.
Right. Well, and I love what you said earlier too about like, I'd rather go down and have my dignity and have
Correct.
my values and my morals and nothing in that manner be swayed.
Yes. If you don't like what we're doing and what we stand for, then you're gonna have to fire us all.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's on you. And
Yeah.
you know what? If that's what the choice is for the powers that be, then
Yeah.
yeah, then so be it. But I'm not going to like what you signed up for with
Yeah.
this brand.
Yes.
Like
Right.
you know what you get when you get the Sports Illustrated Swimsuit
Yeah.
team,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
the women that make it up. And so we've shown nothing but consistency
you
about
really have.
this. And so I to me, the whole go woke go broke thing is just it's a bunch of like scared men.
It's
Yeah,
always,
that's-
it's always, it's,
You
I swear to
know,
God, it's always
threatened
some
men.
guy.
It's always
Right,
some
yeah,
scared guy.
yeah,
that's
right.
threatening. Yeah. And it's because
True.
you're challenging the status quo that they're comfy with.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
anytime you do that, there's going to be that level of pushback.
Do you
We've all
feel because Sports Illustrated has become such a mega, I mean, like you just said, it's everybody wants to be a part of it in some way. If they don't want to be a model for it, they want to be included in it. It's kind of like that electricity, right? Of just like people want to be near it. People want to touch it and be a part of it. And it's A, because of something that you have built so brilliantly. B, do you feel the pressure of that? Because people are like, MJ, you're the one. Do you feel that pressure? Do you feel every season like, who am I going to cast? Is this going to be a splash? Is this going to be a dud? What is that like?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like pressure for sure.
Because you're getting, at the end of the day, as much as we're getting the pressure from things, it's because of your decisions. And thank God you're making these great decisions. But and I can imagine it's exhausting.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. I would be lying if I
totally
wasn't saying that. It's because it's just, to me, the decisions that we make are far more important than just making a pretty picture.
Yeah.
It's like, how is this going to define women?
Yeah.
Right? How is this going to define the brand?
Yeah.
How are we moving forward with what conversation we're going to hold in this space? And so, yeah, it is, because it's not just what's hot, it's part of it.
You have to go deeper.
It's part of it, but it's like, that's like 1% of the whole thing.
Absolutely.
I still want to make the pretty content and the fun content
Of course, yeah.
and stuff like that, but it's so much more than that now. And so making sure that we keep doing justice, like, to the brand and to ourselves and to the women and and keep propelling things forward is so mission critical as far as I'm concerned. And it is stressful. And the beauty of it is that a lot of really amazing people want to be involved in it.
Yeah.
But it is, when I say this all the time about the cover, and I've said it about the women that are on the cover. Like, this brand is a really kind of funny beast because everyone in the world pays attention to it,
Yeah, majorly.
even if it's for just that week.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like in the front of everyone's mind. It's on everyone's tongues. Like, it really captivates the world.
Yeah.
Thank God. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But with that comes a lot of, negativity and, like conversation that isn't necessarily, positive. Like, people are
Yeah.
going to pick you apart. Like, we live in that type of world too, right?
Yeah,
Where
we already live in that type of world.
Yeah.
And then you add on these layers of like, oh, we're challenging the status quo.
Yeah.
We're, doing things that have not been done before. We're featuring people who have not had these
Right.
platforms that they've so deserved yet.
Yeah.
It's a lot of layers.
a lot of layers, and they're always going to come for you. Like,
Yeah.
when this
Always,
many
because
eyes are on you, you
Mhm.
can never, like, you will never not have people coming
No,
for you.
and we
So
live
true.
in the world that we live in now is so polarizing.
Yeah.
Like, it is. I think
You
the
can't
most,
win.
No,
You
I
can't-
know.
you
I
know?
think it's truly the most polarizing time in history. Like,
I
if you look back
agree.
on history books, I think right now will go down as one of the most polarizing times in history, and that just transcends into everything from politics to media to everything.
Agreed.
You are one of the people of the deciding factors for this magazine, which makes such a huge splash and will continue. Like, this is a brand, and I think swimsuit is almost, it's a brand in of its own, right? Will go down in history. What can people learn from you? How can they be bold in their decisions? How can they be the change makers and stay fearless and staunch in that? Is it that you have nothing to lose, or is it that you just wholeheartedly believe in what you're doing? Is it all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel truly it's about following your heart, right?
Yeah.
So it is about what you really believe in. It's not what you think people will like you for or what everybody else is doing. It's like, follow that passion, follow that vision, follow that drive, follow that ideal,
Yeah.
that you seek. And don't be afraid of failure. I say it all the time.
I think that's, yeah.
You just can't be afraid to fail, because sometimes you're going to fail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not always going to be a home run,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay, because you learn from that way.
Yeah.
I say this to my kids. I say this to myself. I think this about the brand. It's like, and it was funny. One of Scott Novak, he was our publicist way back when. I remember he said that to me. He was like, "You can't win the Super Bowl every year, MJ." And I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. It's kind of a
True.
freeing
I like
thought,
that.
right?
"Yeah,
Yes.
it
We
is."
had our first episode was with Jamie Kern-Lima, who's the founder of A Cosmetics, and she
Yeah.
sold to L'Oreal
L'Oreal.
for 1.2 billion back in 2016.
Mhm.
Wow.
She was one of the largest shareholders in the company, and she was telling us how she got hundreds of no's, and she was like, yeah, failure is the key, like the way to success, right?
Yes.
Like, because you can either let failure scare you and hinder you, or you let it catapult you and say, oh, well, I guess I have to work harder. I guess I'm going to just do
Right.
this a little bit different. I'm going to do it a little bit more diligently, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are afraid of failure. And I think that's one thing, like the last 3 episodes we've had, is everybody has said failure is
Yeah.
Mhm.
that's
It's not a death
don't
sentence.
be
No.
afraid of
It's
it.
not.
No.
It's not. It's an opportunity to reset, readjust, relook at what you're doing and how you're doing things, and relearn, and
Yeah.
the way things move in this world at such a rapid rate.
Yeah.
Failure
You're
is
gonna be on the next thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's going to happen, because you
Yes.
can't always be one step ahead. So it's like, but it gives you a moment to say, oh, I should have done that differently, or maybe I could do that better,
Yeah.
or like this
Yeah.
was just the
There's
wrong
nothing
decision.
wrong with that
There's
too.
nothing wrong with
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and
It's
so
redirection.
Us as a
Mhm.
society, we're really afraid to fail. And I think it's something that, we should really like talk openly about, is like our fails.
Mhm.
I think that that's so important. Okay, our last question, and this is one that we get asked all the time, and I get in my DMs anytime you do launch week, anytime there's online castings, is, well, what does MJ look for? Can you help with any tips and tricks? And what does MJ look for? And I always say, I don't even think you don't cast in swimsuit. You don't.
No.
I always say to them, and you tell me if I'm wrong, is go in as you.
Mhm.
Don't try to be anything but. Don't put on an act of, oh, I'm really like, I love my body. If that's not you,
Right.
don't have the same message across the board as because you think that's what you've seen, but that's not true to your heart, because you are a really good like you have a good bullshit meter. You really do.
It's that Sal Jersey
I've known you
girl.
long enough. Yes, I've known you long enough to
I know
know,
many
like,
Jersey girls. You're
right.
like, bullshit.
you know when someone's just saying it to be like, oh, am I checking this box for
Yeah.
MJ?
Right.
What do you look for?
Yeah, because I mean, I think it's funny because I see that a lot. Like it's like whatever they saw
The previous
year, they try and. I mean,
replicate, of course.
God bless. I get it. You're hustling. You're
Yeah.
trying to get somewhere where you want to be. But, it's there's no formula to this.
Right.
This is the most, undefined process.
Yeah.
It's really like, it truly is about the personality.
It's like vibes.
It's vibes. Honestly,
sure.
it is
Absolutely.
vibes.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone's going to have something different to contribute.
Absolutely.
And that's what it comes down to, right?
Yeah.
Is like, I'm so against the idea of like having a cookie cutter group of women here
Yeah.
that I really am looking for a little bit of everything, you
Yeah.
know, and not one person does not have to have it all, you
Right.
know, it's a beautiful collection
It's a mosaic
of uniqueness. Yeah. And so that's the thing. It's like I can't really tell you that because it all needs to speak to one another.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes maybe year X, it doesn't all speak together, but maybe year Y it does.
Exactly. And I think it's just being you.
Yeah.
And not trying to
absolutely.
be something that you see online, something that you see on TikTok or Instagram or anything. It's just coming in and being you. I always tell the story when I first met you, I was literally uptown. I had just moved to New York. I was 22 years old and I was wearing leggings and a sweater and these tennis shoes. And I'm like, oh my God, this is not what I want to wear to Sports Illustrated. But I was dating Brian at the time and he was like, just go in and whatever, talk to her. And I was like, she didn't even ask me to put on swim. And he was like, what? I was like, she didn't even ask me. Like, she didn't see my body or anything. And I thought that was such a poignant thing. I was like, okay, I think that might be like the secondary, like my body and the way that I look. And that has truly been the theme with you since the day that I met you. And I can't even tell you how much I appreciate that. And thank you for creating such a cool table for everybody to sit at. You're going to go down in history as someone who has changed the landscape for women. Truly, I believe that in my heart. So thank you so much. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that.
You are so sweet. But I mean, I say this all the time and I just recognize really powerful women. And that's how I feel like I contribute because I'm meeting you. I still remember James McCary. He called me up and he was like, James McCary is one of our photographers. And he was like, I just worked with the most incredible model, Hunter McGrady. You've got to meet her. You've got to see her. He sent me the photos that you guys did. I still remember you were like all contorted and like going down like these, like they're so amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And he was like, the photos are incredible, but he could not stop talking about like you as a person and how much I was going to love you as a person. And he could not have been more right. And it's true. It's true. It's like we are the vehicles, you know? And so thank you for those kind words, but you're doing the work, girl. Like you're the one that's putting yourself out there and having, these important conversations and taking the weight of a lot of the world on your shoulders and carrying that for us and not being undaunted, by, some of the heaviness that comes along with this. And I think that we have the women like you to thank for the moment that we're living in. And we need more. We need more views. We need more of Hunter and Michaela's.
There's so many people.
Rise up, ladies. Rise up.
That's what the series is about.
That's what this whole series stemmed from is after the cover dropped, I got thousands of DMs from women who were like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
How do I feel confident in this? Like, how do I... And I'm like,
just fuck it, girls. Just think fuck it. Like,
fuck
don't
it.
hear it.
Yes.
Don't hear it.
Yes.
Like, zero fucks. Like, I have a mug. Zero
Yes.
fucks. It's my mantra. I should have it tattooed somewhere on my body. But, like,
literally.
zero fucks.
You heard it here
That
first.
which does not kill you makes you stronger.
Yes. You heard it here first. Fuck it.
Fuck
MJ
It
Day.
by
Yes.
MJ. Yes, literally.
The name of episode.
That is the name.
so true.
And when we all have that mentality, when we all rise, when we all aren't afraid to do the things, we see it. I saw you, and therefore I was able to do
Correct.
it. And that's when people see me and Michaela,
Mhm.
and then they're able to do it. And the domino effect is so powerful.
Yeah.
And guys, I know so many of you girls are listening. Like, fuck, give zero fucks.
Zero
Mhm.
fucks. It's true. It's the minute you stop worrying about failure or worrying about what other people think about you is the minute you start living. And whatever that looks like. And maybe you're on the cover of Sports Illustrated Swimsuit, and maybe you get the dream job, or maybe you meet the dream person, or maybe you know what I mean? Maybe you just get one step closer to whatever is that goal on your vision board. But it's like it is so liberating
Yeah.
to not hear it or worry about it and just follow your heart, you know? And
Yeah.
it sounds so hokey. Having kids, honestly, is what made me
Changed.
change.
I was actually gonna ask that when we were talking earlier.
Yeah.
I was like, do you feel like the being a mom changed that for
100%.
you? Because it changed this one for sure.
100%.
Zero fucks. over here.
Overnight.
Yeah.
Overnight, I was
Mhm.
always a pleaser. I still am a pleaser, but like I was always like, that was just my defining characteristic. And
Same.
I just wanted people to be happy. I wanted them
Mhm.
to like me. I wanted to do for them. And
Yeah.
the minute I had my first child, Parker, I was living for that human
Yep.
being, and I didn't care what anyone else. No one else mattered. Sorry, honey.
No,
literally, though,
it's
No one
true.
else mattered. I just
Mhm.
wanted this little tiny baby to be okay, and
Yes.
whatever that took. And I applied that like really unknowingly in certain ways till one day I really did realize that like I had adopted this mentality and it was working for me,
Yeah.
you know? And it's not to mean I'm dismissive of people or that I don't
No.
care about others'
You have
feelings, but
boundaries.
boundaries, yes. And I
yes.
just don't hear the noise like I used to.
Mm.
And that is such a liberating thing.
It
Yes.
It really
It
is. And you don't need to have kids to feel that way. You have to be conscious though enough
Yep.
Right.
of what's going on in your life
Yep.
to choose a place where you're making space
Yeah.
for what you are going for and what you're
Yeah.
wanting, and not letting the naysayers or the knowers or,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, those people
Yeah.
infiltrate that.
The people don't hold the key. Like, we have to realize, like, you know,
Yeah.
there's bigger things out there than that, and your feet will land where they're supposed to land. And
And it may look different, right? It
may
may
look
look different
different.
from that thing that you have in your mind, and you
Yeah.
should be open to that difference too. Because
Mm.
I say that a lot. Like as we grow as a brand too, we're doing a lot of like swimsuit adjacent things, you know, with
Yeah.
people and personalities. Like whether you're walking the show or, you know what I mean. There's the
Yeah.
digital content that we're doing. It all looks very different, and it can lead to other successes and things that just may look different,
Yeah.
but still maybe even more rewarding.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's unexpected and
Totally.
you know, so
Totally. MJ, thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for.
I could go 6 more hours.
No, we could go
Guys,
6 more hours.
let's
I
go.
literally, I'm looking at the clock. I'm like,
Ourselves
one
off.
more minute.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
We had to,
They're
like,
packing up.
end.
I know. I'm like,
Yeah.
literally, because I feel like we just scratched the surface. Like, I would even love to get into like you as a mom. Anyways, but thank you so much for coming on. This has been literally in the making for the last year. We've been
Mhm.
literally like, come on, and how are we gonna get her? Because you're just a
Oh,
globe
you say
trotter.
when. I am so happy to be here with you
Thank you
guys.
so
There's
much.
no one I would want to spend the day with more.
Love
So
you.
thank you.
Thank you so much. And guys, that's MJ Day. Thank you so much for listening to our Summer of Self-Love series, and continue checking back because we have some great guests who are continuing on this series, and we love ya.
Love you guys. Bye.
Thank you guys so much for listening. You can catch a new episode of Model Citizen every Thursday. And please don't forget to follow the podcast so you don't miss any of the action. We want to hear from you. So please leave a rating and review and follow us on socials for all the behind the scenes action at Hunter McGrady and Michaela McGrady. And don't forget, you are worthy, you are loved, and you are capable of doing all wonderful things. Bye, guys.